So the character we're going to be looking at specifically is Isabel. She starts in the middle of a thought. She's talking about it. And she goes on about it, and then we realize what she's describing is the black location, the township. And she says the road leaves Kamdaboo, so that's her little town, to the north to join the national road, which she says takes you to Middelburg. So we know we're in the Great Karoo. But she says, unfortunately, as most of Kamdaboo would say, you can't miss it. That's the township. And she calls it a terrible mess. So notice she's repeating what we will recognize as the white, dismissive, insensitive attitudes to the black township. To call something a terrible mess, according to the mayor and everybody else, but nobody's going to do anything about it. It doesn't show you that they care. This simply shows contempt. They look down on the township and the fact that the people haven't looked after it. But we know, what do you need to look after a township? Money, for example, and how much money did the apartheid government spend on black townships? And then we have the mayor, Mr. Pienaar, so a white, and he calls it an eyesore, literally something that hurts the eyes. So Isabel is showing that she speaks for whites. It's the white population who regret the location's unpleasant appearance. They see their pretty town with its nicely restored national monument houses and buildings, and they look at the location's shacks and pondoks with contempt and indifference. So I am arguing that she's showing cold indifference. People suffer there. They are forced to live. This is not choice. This is forced. A neglected area which lacks basic infrastructure. And you certainly don't pay wages to black people that would enable them to do anything about it themselves. She's being very cruel. Most of the houses, if you can call them that, are made of bits of old corrugated iron or anything else they could find to make 4 walls and a roof. There are no gardens or anything like that. She's rather contemptuous here. Again, I'm using the word contempt, and I'm now turning it into an adjective. Contemptuous, looking down on, sneering, mocking, laughing at. She talks of potholes, stones, dust, rubbish. And I've said here, she seems utterly unaware of poverty and hardship that force people to live in such conditions. There's no social concern. And I've mentioned here budgets, a town council. What did the town council budget for a black township? Probably nothing. So white people have suggested that the location must be moved to where it can't be seen by white people. And she repeats that idea. And I've said she doesn't think about the dislocation of people's lives. And then a huge issue, we know how much people spend on transport. And she doesn't seem to think about it at all. She's utterly unaware. So I've summed it all up here, and I've said that she's representative of young white people because they're brought up never to question this kind of thing, never to question this, never to question at all. So I've called her unthinking, privileged, white elite. What I'm arguing here is that apartheid was incredibly successful. People were kept so separate that if you didn't actually make an effort to find out, or you wanted to think about it, you could just go on in your little bubble perfectly happily for the whole of your life. And Isabel represents that bubble mentality, that she's been brought up like this, and until the moment she's actually taken to the township to debate, never questioned, never thought, never imagined what it's like, never contemplated the fact that there are huge inequalities here? Just hasn't occurred to her. Isabel does describe once where she went with Auntie to the township, and she sat in the car and she did try to imagine, and she mentions these things: no electricity, no running water, no privacy. And she talks about 9 people in 2 small rooms. But all she concludes is, I'm damn glad I was born with a white skin. You know, what happened to, and maybe I should do something about this, or maybe this is not right, or she just thinks, glad it's not me, glad it's somebody else. She goes on to discuss the kind of contact she has had across the color line with black people. And I think she sounds very pleased with herself. But we, as we listen to her, we can say, oh, come on. She's always in the privileged position. She's never in her life interacted with black people honestly or openly. She actually knows nothing about what black people's lives are like. So she gossips with Auntie. She talks to Samuel about religion and the meaning of life. But she acknowledges, she realizes, this is actually meaningless. This is not relationships across the color line, because she's always the boss's daughter. Now she's reflecting on being in number 1 classroom at Zalile, and she says she was exposed, she was defensive, she's protecting herself, and she suddenly felt the outsider. So I've concluded here, she's suddenly experiencing what black people live with every day: to be exposed and defensive and outside and not included. And how does she feel? Startled and shaken. Startled is shocked. Shaken, disturbed. You're uncomfortable. No, this is not easy. And this is the first time she's experienced this. However, very important, she feels alive. And she responds really, really positively to it, because she says the experience is real. And what does it make her understand? Herself. She says she's discovered a new world. So in discovering that world, the world of the township, she learns about herself and she wants to know more. So this is the first time it's no more, not just that response where she said, oh, I'm dab glad I've got a white skin. Oh, I'm glad I'm not them. It isn't. It's, hang on, I'm the outsider. I'm the one that doesn't fit in. I want to know more. I want to know about this now. And she realizes that her upbringing has been false. She's been manipulated and she's been deceived. She says, it's what I was made to believe was out there for me. The ideas, the chances, the people. All of that is only a small fraction of what it could be. She wants more knowledge. She wants more interaction. So I've said here, Isabel the rebel has been exposed to something she has never properly thought about before.